The first flights from other countries have now landed in South Africa as our borders opened this morning after the COVID-19 lockdown. It means for the first time, business people, tourists from some countries are here. The first time since the end of March. But government is also preventing leisure travel from countries that are deemed to be high risk and have a high number of new COVID-19 cases. So people in countries like Brazil, the United States, the United Kingdom cannot come here for tourism. Alan Winde is the Premier of the Western Cape. Mr. Premier, good afternoon to you. Firstly, as a general statement, do you welcome the opening of borders?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've been really looking forward to this. It's a key part of our economy. But I must say that differentiated comes with a bit of a blow to our tourism economy. Tourism is part of our business. And so we really will be now asking for a differentiation. We will be putting forward to government that, if you can allow a business traveller to travel from the USA, but you're going to allow a leisure traveller, why not? We believe absolutely you've got to have safe protocols in place. We must be able to, have the tests, have the screening, have the quarantine if necessary. But there shouldn't be a differentiation between a diplomatic traveller, a business traveller, or a leisure traveller.
I suppose, in a way, the fact that if you come here, you have to come with a test showing that you don't have the virus would mean that actually that there's really no point in making a difference.
Yeah, so that's what that would be our position. Tourism is a big part of our economy. I will class every leisure tourist as a business traveller. Tourism is our business, or a big part of our business in the Western Cape. So it is definitely, we will be putting together a submission now to National to say we need to treat it as such. And even if we've got to put extra layers, depending on the risk analysis, test before you come. We already know that if you don't have that test, you will be tested when you get here. We could even do a rapid test on arrival as well. We've got to make sure that we are safe, but we've also got to make sure we save the economy.
So if you don't get international tourists coming to the Western Cape, say for the Christmas season, I've been in Cape Town over the Christmas season. You have to look very hard to find a South African sometimes. I mean, what's that going to do to your tourism market?
Well, exactly. So, but I mean, we must also bear in mind that it's not going to be open the floodgates, because I was reading a UN WTO journal 2 days ago, and generally across the world, tourism is not going to jump straight back into where it was, before COVID. It's going to take a while, and so what we also need to do at the same time, trying to open up the doors that we can to increase tourism numbers, but also looking at new markets. And definitely having a look at how we grow our domestic tourism market. I think in the past, too greater percentage reliance on international travel, and we need to get a better balance, more locals traveling. And but at the same time, we have to open where we can, and it's got to be done safely. Whether you're a South African traveling around our country or a foreigner traveling around our country, we also are averting a second wave. We've got to keep the virus curve flat where it is now. So it's got to be done safely. But we have got to maximize every opportunity to avert, the second pandemic, which is an economic meltdown.
Okay, and I mean, in a way, you've got a completely captive market for Christmas, because people in Gauteng, if they are looking for a place to go on holiday, aren't really going to go overseas. They're very unlikely to have the money. It's much easier to go to Cape Town. They might go to KZN, of course, but I would imagine that might make up some of the shortfall for you.
We definitely are going to work at that, and the industry themselves. I can already see it in the last weekend, at the end of this last long weekend, the Heritage Long Weekend. I noticed the traffic volumes of South Africans traveling was quite immense. We had Sunday afternoon traffic jams coming back into the city of Cape Town, so that was good news for the rural economy. And so definitely we are seeing South Africans take advantage of what's being made available by the tourism industry. They're putting on some really good specials to entice travel, and we need to continue that through the season.
The situation in your province regarding the virus, and we've seen the scientists now suggesting that in some parts of the Western Cape, from the surveys they've been able to do, they can't do the whole province, of course, you're looking at around 40 to 45% of people in certain communities have actually been exposed to COVID-19. What that means is that actually the pandemic might be a lot further ahead than we thought in terms of generating herd immunity.
So obviously, if you tracked our virus curve from the beginning, we were ahead of the rest of the country. And our hotspots in the Western Cape were in the Tygerberg region, in the Klipfontein region, in the Khayelitsha region. And those are the specific regions that we've been doing the serology testing or antibody testing since the end of July. And so that's why we know in those areas we're looking at about 40% infection, which shows that we've got a very high rate of asymptomatic, number one. But also what we're seeing now, and we measure cases per 100,000. And so right now in the Western Cape, we're seeing that wave is diminished absolutely in the city, in the metro area of the city of Cape Town. But we see right now our highest infection rate is out in the Karoo at Beaufort West, second highest up in the West Coast at Matsikama, third highest in Knysna, fourth highest in Oudtshoorn. So we're definitely seeing in the rural areas, which were much more protected, they've got their numbers. Although those numbers are still low and it's managed well, you can see that there are different risks. But we are measuring it across the board, wall to wall. We're measuring every single municipality. We measure it through testing, and we've increased our testing. But we're also even doing wastewater treatment testing, so we can pick up if there's any increase in the number of cases.
We've spoken to epidemiologists about this here this week, and I mean, obviously we understand that the first South African diagnosed in South Africa with this disease was in Hilton in KwaZulu-Natal, but the numbers in the Western Cape suggest that the virus might actually have been in your province before that.
Absolutely. Our numbers suggest quite a long time before that. And if we look at those initial early measurements of cases, we would plot them, we would GIS map them, and we color-coded them if they were an imported case. In other words, if you were a South African that had come back from overseas or a traveler who'd come from overseas to our province, you would be categorized as an imported case, and then you had local transmission. And definitely early on, I mean, we were smothered across the region of the city with the imported cases and hardly any local transmissions in the beginning. So we estimate that weeks before that we already had a number of cases in the province, but not detected. And that shows you that a large number of our positive cases are definitely asymptomatic. People don't know that they had the virus.
And then the other question, I know you might have a view on this, Mr. Premier, your wine farms are still not allowed to sell alcohol on weekends. Now, no one's allowed to sell alcohol on weekends unless it's actually at a venue, but I know some people in your wine industry are very frustrated by that.
Yeah, I mean, so people will go out over the weekends and do wine tasting and maybe enjoy a good bottle of wine with their meal on the wine farm, and they can't actually purchase a few bottles to take home. Very frustrating. Although I must say that the entrepreneurship is what astounds me, and the innovation. So you fill in your little card and the wine farm will deliver your wine to your home the next week when they're able to. So I have seen lots of innovation, and that's what has really excited me in this last while, the innovation that's come out both in government and in private sector. You know, when a barrier is put up, solutions are found. So, yeah, there is frustration, just as there's frustration now with not fully opening up the tourism season. You know, every single bed filled is a bed that counts. And, every bottle of wine that gets sold is a bottle of wine that helps keep a job going. We export on average of 1 million bottles of wine a day. And we also need to make sure that our domestic market balances it. It's, you've got to manage it as far as risk goes. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And now local sales have taken a beating in the last while.
1 million bottles of wine a day. I wasn't aware that the figure was that high.
Yep.
It's incredible.
It's been a big project of growing our exports over the last few years. It links through to the agri-processing focus that we've been on and finding new markets specifically for our wines, and now also looking at higher price points for our wines. And so, yeah, it's a big success project. And, of course, COVID-19 came along and really started to slow some of that down. So we've got to claw back not just the jobs that we've lost, but also market share.
Alan Winde, the Premier of the Western Cape, wanting to uncork his economy. Thanks very much indeed. Really do appreciate it.